got to get the show open done, man. I don't like this sitting in front of the screen, tapping my head and grooving to the music. And we always start usually, folks, with music. By the way, good morning. It's the Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital at MC Show Digital. Paul Esden to my right. To my right or to my left? It will be to my right. This is my right hand, right? To the right of your screen. The Manchild, Jim Lerch here to the left. And we're about to be joined by our NFL Insider. Today's broadcast is brought to you by our friends at Bayberry Automotive. Integrity in everything. Go see our friends at Bayberry, and we'll drop a little commercial in a little bit so you can learn a little bit more about our friends at Bayberry Automotive. But it is time to talk all things NFL. We do it on our Wednesday live show each and every Wednesday. And today we got a little new face. He's familiar to people who watch Paul's channel, but he hasn't been on with us yet on the Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital. Let's welcome in from between the hash marks on Substack, our NFL Insider, Matt Lombardo. What's up, Matt? How are you?
Guys, great to be here. Sorry for the camera angle being a little bit off. Paul knows from my appearance on Sunday, my iPhone has been battling me. It's been turning me upside down, sideways. So we decided that we're just going to go with the vertical frame. I know it's suboptimal, but it's probably better than me giving the viewers some vertigo going topsy-turvy throughout the conversation.
We're okay with that.
We are. And by the way, you heard Jim the Manchild Lerch mention that between the hash marks, there's a direct link in both YouTube descriptions from the Manchild Show, Boy Green Digital, and Boy Green's YouTube channel down below with a direct link to Matt Lombardo's Substack, baby. Matt, before we get started with all kinds of NFL topics, we want to dive into the deep end of the pool here with you. Give folks a sneak peek of, again, supporting local journalism and what you bring to the table here with between the hash marks.
Yeah, Paul, really appreciate it. It is truly independent NFL journalism, and I leverage my Rolodex of covering the NFL for the past 15 years as a beat writer for the Philadelphia Eagles at NJ.com, covering the New York Giants for NJ.com, and then covering the league nationally over the past 5 seasons or so. Every Monday, there's an all-encompassing omnibus column with quotes from sources, including executives, scouts, coaches around the NFL, various features and interviews with players inside the league, former players lending their insight into the biggest storylines that are happening each and every week, 52 weeks a year, not just during the regular season. The podcast every Wednesday with my colleague Mike Tanier, and every Friday, one of the most fun features to write, I have a mailbag where people can pose their questions. You'll get my insight, my opinions, but I also take the best ones, and I'll reach out to an agent, or I'll reach out to a general manager or a coach and say, hey, what do you think about this? So you get the answers from the decision makers and the power brokers inside the league. So appreciate you guys having me, the chance to promote the product. And if you're an NFL fan, you want to check us out, head over to Between the Hash Marks, and would love to see you subscribe for the year ahead.
Well, man, I love breaking news when we do this segment, since we are live and we do have some very recent breaking news. Unfortunately, it's bad news, and it's this guy, Elijah Vera Tucker, as they call him, AVT. Apparently some kind of severe arm injury, and this could be potentially season ending. So what do we know at this point? And then what's the Jets' move if indeed this is season ending?
Yeah, not great on a lot of fronts here, guys, because obviously Elijah Vera Tucker is one of those cornerstone players around an offensive line that had been getting better. And that's one of the sources of optimism for Justin Fields, for that ground and pound running game, for the Jets offense, was the continuity along this building offensive line. You had the bookends with Olu Fashanu and Elijah Vera Tucker. Now you're going into plan B, plan C, plan D mode, because there just aren't that many free agent tackles on the open market that are available right now. You can talk about a 29-year-old Isaiah Wynn who's kind of wildly inconsistent. You can talk about converting a Shaq Mason potentially from guard to tackle, but I think that's suboptimal for the Jets, and especially with some of the domestic violence accusations and allegations that have come out over the past week or so when it comes to Shaq Mason, but certainly a name to watch. I think for the Jets here, you're either looking to promote from within to that spot, or you're looking at practice squads, right? You're looking at practice squads across the NFL. If you're going to be without Elijah Vera Tucker for more than, say, 4, 5, 6 weeks, a season-ending injury potentially, Trent Brown might be a really interesting name to watch in Houston on the practice squad. In 2023, he had an 82 overall grade from Pro Football Focus. He's coming back from an injury, but he's young, he's up and coming. He could be a veteran presence in that locker room as well. Those are just some of the names that I would keep an eye on for the Jets as you try to move forward here.
Yeah, probably with such obviously limited time. We're here doing this live show on a Wednesday before week one, Jets Steelers. They're likely going to have to figure it out over the coming days. And it looks like the Jets are probably at this point, before a potential, any potential additions, Matt, that they're going to reshuffle the offensive line. Olu Mui Fashanu, your boy from Penn State, is going to be there at left tackle. John Simpson's going to be at left guard. It looks like Josh Myers, their interior pickup, formerly the Green Bay Packers, going to be at center, and Joe Tippmann will kick from center to guard to replace AVT there at right guard, and then Armand Membu, the 7th overall pick, will likely be there at right tackle. That seems to be a serviceable unit for now, but the depth is in question. If they suffer another injury, they could be hitting that back pedal there, Matt Lombardo.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, you're looking at free agents who have been available this late into the calendar year. They've been passed over by 32 teams how many times? And look, they had high hopes for Elijah Vera Tucker this year. They thought that he was going to take a big step forward. This is a pretty big loss along that offensive line.
Hey, let me ask you this, because you mentioned some tackle options, and certainly that has to be in the conversation. What about a guard option? I don't know the reason for this player's recent retirement, but I heard Brandon Scherf recently retired. He's a very talented guard. Maybe that could be an option. You mentioned Shaq Mason, some off the field stuff, which obviously could come into play there as well. But anything do you know about Brandon Scherf and the Jacksonville Jaguars and that retirement situation?
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about what prompted him to retire, but there's
Right.
still upside there if he decides to change his mind to come out of retirement. John Feliciano from the San Francisco 49ers, you could see him as a type of an option there. And Mark Lewinsky, I thought he had a really nice year a year ago in Indianapolis. He had a solid year the year prior with the New York Giants. You're talking about just a handful of guys that are still available. So again, you're not really sure what you're getting from some of these guards, but if you get a converted tackle who's used to playing on the perimeter, might have that tackle frame, it might be an easier band-aid having that much size up front.
Now, let's stick with the Jets. Start talking about some of these matchups. We're actually going to see real football starting on Thursday night. Let's talk about the Jets Steelers. It certainly is an intriguing matchup, to say the least, because of the return of Aaron Rodgers. He ends up on the Steelers. The Steelers quarterback, at least the guy who started the season, ends up on the Jets. We're talking about Justin Tucker. So let's talk about the matchup. I mean,
Justin Fields.
Justin Fields, what did I say? I'm sorry.
Yeah, Justin Tucker. Yeah.
Oh,
Justin
I'm sorry.
Tucker.
No, he's the kicker.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Mike Tomlin. Does he have an advantage here attacking the Jets offense, knowing perhaps the flaws of Justin Fields?
Yeah, I think that anytime that you've had a guy in your building for an entire year, you're going to know how to coach against him. You're going to know his tendencies. You're going to know what he does well. You're going to know what makes him uncomfortable. So that's an interesting chess match within the game. But guys, I think that what's going to be really fascinating here is the other side of that chess match between Aaron Glenn and Aaron Rodgers and Arthur Smith of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Because you think about the battles that Glenn had, with Aaron Rodgers when he was in Green Bay, and was seeing him what he did a year ago with the New York Jets. I had eyes on Aaron Rodgers during training camp. I think that his mobility has regressed going into this year, even from what it was a year ago. That wide receiving core, they're still looking for an NFL caliber second option alongside DK Metcalf. I mean,
Well, we just lost Matt Lombardo.
Was real.
Yeah. The iPhone problem is real. So we'll see if we can get Matt back here on the program in just a moment. But we can just
let me
sort of
pick
bounce
it up where we left
ahead.
off there, BG, and just talk a little bit between ourselves here about the Jets and the other side of this coin. I just said it. Tomlin's seen Fields, but the Jets have seen Rodgers. I mean, these players have played against this guy in practice. They know what's kind of going on with him. So how do you feel about that side of the equation? It looks like we do have Matt back. We can bring him back into the convo, but go ahead and answer the question first.
Yeah, and I would just say this. I played the clip on my morning show. Mike Tomlin was asked this, do you guys have an advantage? You just had Justin Fields. And he went like, well, they had Aaron Rodgers. So he's called it an even Steven swap. It's the same advantage or disadvantage of both of them having some knowledge base going into it. We have Matt Lombardo back here. Matt, how does that balance out? Because again, the Jets, used to have Aaron Rodgers. The Steelers used to have Justin Fields. So is it sort of a draw when it comes to that in the advantage-disadvantage category?
Yeah, guys. First of all, sorry about the Wi-Fi gremlins. The iPhone has just been battling me the last couple of days, apparently. But I'm not so sure that there's much of an advantage involving Aaron Rodgers because this is a different coaching staff, right? I mean, you're
Sure,
talking
that's
about
true.
a new head coach. You're talking about a new defensive scheme. You can talk to some of the players that might have practiced against him, like a Quinnen Williams or a Sauce Gardner, or guys that were on the practice field against him, and kind of get those tendencies into your game plan. And I'm sure those conversations happen. But I think as far as the advantage of staff versus quarterback, I give the edge here to the Steelers. Just because of the fact that there's continuity there. It's the same set of coaches. It's the same set of defensive players. But it's going to come down to the talent on the field, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And I'm just really not sold, guys, on this Steelers offense. I'm not sold on Aaron Rodgers being anything more than a shell of what he was back in 2022. I'm not sold on Calvin Austin III and Scotty Miller being competent NFL receivers alongside DK Metcalf. You could talk about the offensive line. That's still a developing line, similarly to the New York Jets. It's going to be a really fascinating game, but I think that the chess match between Aaron Glenn and Aaron Rodgers is going to really decide how this thing plays out.
Let me add one more here on Jet Steelers, and then we could go into some other topics here, man. Who would the revenge be sweeter for? Aaron Rodgers beating his old team, the Jets, or Justin Fields beating his old team, the Steelers?
Wow. I think that the fact that the Jets flew Aaron Rodgers into Florham Park just so that he could hand his key fob to them personally and release him, I think maybe the revenge might be sweeter for Aaron Rodgers because Justin Fields had the opportunity. He was benched for Russell Wilson. I'm sure that didn't sit well with him. But Rodgers strikes me as a guy who's vindictive enough to take it personally enough that they could have just released him over the phone and chose to fly him into the Garden State to do so in person. So I think that the Aaron Rodgers revenge factor might be a little bit more personal for him.
You mentioned in your comments there, Matt, about Arthur Smith. Help me understand it, because I have to tell you, as a fantasy manager, as somebody who follows football, I can't stand Arthur Smith. I don't want him managing my offense. So this guy keeps getting jobs. People obviously like him. So what's to like? I must be missing it. What's the special sauce?
His father founded FedEx. I mean,
Okay.
I'm not quite sure here either. I mean, when you have a guy like Bijan Robinson, who's as multifaceted and explosive a running back
He
as you'll
didn't use him
find,
well at
and
all.
you run him up the middle 5 times a game, it's a misallocation of resources, right? I think that you can talk about using the run to set up the pass last year, but I don't get it either. I think that Arthur Smith is probably a bottom third offensive coordinator in this league, especially from an ingenuity and innovative standpoint around the NFL.
Sure seems like it, but I hope
Okay.
he shows that same flavor week 1 against my New York Jets. That would be wonderful if we get it there. Let's go to another fun matchup. A lot of people are interested in Jets Steelers, sure, but a lot of people are interested in the creme de la creme, the AFC Championship rematch of Ravens, Buffalo Bills, Sunday Night Football. This was an easy one for the NFL schedule makers to toss up to the primetime crowd there on NBC. What do you make of this here, Matt? Because these two teams have been clashing against each other in the postseason the last bunch of years.
A terrific matchup. Game of the week, one of the games of the year, getting it out of the way early in week 1. Teaser here. I have the Ravens winning the Super Bowl. I think that the Ravens and the Eagles are the two most talented, two most complete rosters across the NFL. Where's the weakness on that Ravens roster? I mean, you talk about Lamar Jackson. His chemistry is off the charts this summer with Rashad Bateman. Zay Flowers looks like he's taken a leap. The defense got significantly better both on the front end with Mike Green and on the back end in the secondary, one of the strongest secondaries already with Malachi Starks during the NFL draft. And you're looking at the revenge factor pressure of going up against Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, who ended their season a year ago. I could see this being an AFC Championship game preview looking ahead to January 2026. These are two of the best teams in football. Allen is back. James Cook re-signed, happy and whole. You're looking if Keon Coleman can take a leap. Brandon Beane revamping the defensive line during the NFL draft. This is strength on strength. It's a punishing, bruising, force multiplier of a running back in Derrick Henry against a beefed up defensive line. It's appointment television, and I can't wait for this one.
Talking with Matt Lombardo, our NFL insider today. It's our Wednesday live show, Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital. Don't forget to hit the little thumbs up, like us, and subscribe at MC Show Digital. Today's broadcast is brought to you by our friends at Bayberry Automotive. Let's just take 30 seconds, learn a little bit more about our friends from Bayberry.
Integrity is a word that some people just throw around in life. But at Bayberry Automotive, integrity is everything. Integrity of their mechanics, who are all experienced and certified. Integrity in the work they perform, with nothing but 5-star reviews from satisfied customers on Google. Integrity that goes along with family, a family-run business that treats you like one of their own. Integrity in everything. Bayberry Automotive. BayberryAutomotive.com.
Located on Route 57 across from Bayberry Plaza, the premier choice for auto repair in Liverpool.
Talking with Matt Lombardo, our NFL insider at MC Show Digital this morning. Matt, let me jump right into this one. Talk about creme de la creme. I want to talk to you about the Kansas City Chiefs, because I'm going to go into this season and I'm going to say I am a believer in Patrick Mahomes. I think he might arguably and probably is the best quarterback in all of football. Certainly you can make arguments for other guys like Allen and Lamar Jackson and others, but I still think he's numero uno in the grand scheme of things. I love Andy Reid, who I think is a phenomenal coach, and obviously has proven himself time and time again. I'm not a believer in the Chiefs this year, yet I look at their easy schedule and I say, they're probably going to be back. Give me your thoughts on the Chiefs going in.
Jim, the cardinal rule and the first commandment of the NFL, thou shalt never bet against Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes.
I know.
That's just the reality of the world we live in the year of our Lord 2025. But I tend to agree with you here, because I think that when you look at the way it ended, that defense was exposed in a lot of ways in the Super Bowl. I think that their offense got better along the offensive line, even though it's tough to get better when you're losing an all-pro like Joe Thuney, who was traded to the Chicago Bears. But I just look at the rest of that division, and I'm extremely high on the Denver Broncos. I think Bo Nix is ready to make the leap. I think RJ Harvey is a difference-making young running back added to that offense. That might be the best defense in football when you're adding a first-round corner with elite ball skills in Jahdae Barron opposite the reigning Defensive Player of the Year in Patrick Surtain. I think the Broncos are a very real threat. Justin Herbert, I think, is still one of the top 10 to 12 quarterbacks in the NFL, and that might even be a little bit too low on the pecking order. And there's just the attrition that comes with going to the Super Bowl and not hoisting the Lombardi. It's tough to get back. And Travis Kelce looked like he took a step back, looked half a step or a step slower by the end of that season, certainly in the Super Bowl against the Eagles. I think there's a lot of motivation in Kansas City to get back. But guys, that is an absolute gauntlet on that side of the bracket. You talk about the Baltimore Ravens having arguably the deepest roster in football. The Buffalo Bills are battle tested, maybe the most explosive offense in the sport with Josh Allen. You talk about Joe Burrow. I think Burrow has a 5,000-yard, 50-touchdown season in him to make a potential MVP run this year. And that's before you even talk about some of the sleeper teams that could jump up, and bite you in the ass if you're the Kansas City Chiefs. So I'm with you. I think that the Chiefs are still probably the slight favorites to win the AFC West. But if they have to go on the road, if they have to leave the confines of Arrowhead, I'm not sure how that works out for them in the postseason this time around.
You know what's fascinating too to me, Matt, is this, right? So a few years back, the Chiefs were throwing the ball over the top on everyone. They had Tyreek Hill. Mahomes was setting all kinds of records. They were bombing the ball down the field. And then the league got hip to it and said, you know what? We're going to play the two deep. All right. And literally, Patrick Mahomes had to almost, it felt like he had to relearn the position. Oh, I got to learn how to dink and dunk. I have to be a little more like Tom Brady. And now coming out of camp this year, they're talking about throwing it down the field again. Who's going to let him throw it down the field? They've already proven how to stop him down the field. You just play the two deep. So how the heck are they going to get over the top if everyone keeps playing them the same way?
Yeah, Jim, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. That it looked like, and if you're looking for reasons to be optimistic about the Chiefs, not that you really need them based on their track record, Mahomes and Xavier Worthy seemed like they were just a hair off the entire year in terms of their timing. Xavier Worthy has game-changing speed. Xavier Worthy can make those two catches a game for 112 yards and two touchdowns. He's that kind of a player. And even if you're taking away over the top for much of the game, all it takes is one or two big explosive plays down the field to change the trajectory of a game, of an offense. And I think that if that duo is on the same page, look out.
Yeah, Boy Green. In case you didn't notice, who's my fantasy quarterback, Boy Green, in our league? And it'd be
Oh,
Patrick Mahomes.
Mahomes.
Who's my top receiver in our league? Well, one of them? That'd
I'm
be
not sure.
Xavier Worthy. I have both of them on my team, Matt. I expect exactly what you're saying. I just don't understand how the heck they're going to do it, but I'll be a believer in the Chiefs until they prove me wrong. Go ahead, Boy Green.
Yeah, Matt, Lerch already said it. Our sponsor for today's show is Bayberry Automotive, so I'm gonna work in a sponsor and a question all together because that's just how smooth I am. All right, is what NFL team is most in need of an oil change before the season? What is an obvious flaw on a team that they need to go under the hood and fix it ASAP?
Oh boy, I'm not so sure how you fix it this late in the game. But the San Francisco 49ers wide receiver core. I mean, Debo Samuel is a Washington Commander. Brandon Ayuk is banged up. I mean, you're talking about Ricky Pearsall, who I'm bullish on going into his second year. And who else? Juwan Jennings, a little bit banged up, not that happy. I'm a buyer of Kyle Shanahan, offensive innovator, play caller, facilitator of deep playoff runs. But it just seems like even though you're getting Christian McCaffrey back, I'm not so sure what that offense is, especially early in the year, other than Christian McCaffrey, 32 touches per game. And we've seen that just isn't sustainable for him.
Last week we woke up to news that I don't think many of us thought we were going to wake up to. Micah Parsons no longer on the Dallas Cowboys. So let's talk about it, Matt. What's the fallout? How shocked were you when that all broke last week? And what is the fallout for Dallas? What is the upside for Green Bay?
Yeah, Jim, the upside for Green Bay, I reached out to a handful of sources moments after this trade happened, and I got a text message back 10 minutes later from an AFC scout who said, quote, the Packers are legitimate Super Bowl contenders after this, unquote. That's the narrative now. That is the sea change that's happened after the Packers pull off the blockbuster to land Micah Parsons. I think it has the chance to be the most impactful NFL trade over the past decade because you have a roster in Green Bay that's largely homegrown with stars on both sides of the ball. Edgerrin Cooper is an ascending star at linebacker. You're not going to be able to double team Parsons if you're putting Edgerrin Cooper just above him as a stand-up linebacker with Parsons with his hand in the dirt. You have an all-pro safety in Xavier McKinney on the back end. You have Rashawn Gary, who's going to benefit and race Micah Parsons to the quarterback, all built around a young and ascending talent in quarterback at Jordan Love. You draft a speedster and wide receiver in the first round in Matthew Golden. The Packers, to me, they're best positioned now to challenge, if not overtake, the Detroit Lions in the NFC North. I think they have the pieces now to make a deep playoff run. And the flip side of that coin in Dallas, I believe Jerry Jones napalmed his locker room. When you hear CeeDee Lamb come out and say things like, oh, we have to face Micah Parsons in week 4. I hope he's not in the backfield all game. You hear Dak Prescott talking about how those negotiations turned unnecessarily personal on both sides. This was the wrong guy for Jerry Jones to go to his tired playbook of trashing his star players publicly, trying to lowball them, waiting for the market to set itself when you're watching Myles Garrett get record-setting money that's topped by the record-setting money that TJ Watt gets, followed by the Trey Hendrickson being made happy and whole by the Cincinnati Bengals for at least a year. This was the wrong guy to alienate. Parsons wanted out. He got out, and I think it creates a hole not just in the Cowboys defense that with Micah Parsons, I think they're a wild card team. I think that they're the Commanders of a year ago that could go in and wreck somebody's day with Dak Prescott, with George Pickens, with CeeDee Lamb, with those weapons. You take Parsons out of the equation, you damage that pass rush as significantly as you did, you nuke your locker room of a leader and a well-respected voice. Guys, I don't know that the Cowboys are much more than a 500 team at this point. So for the Packers, it's a sea change. It props open their Super Bowl window for the next 3 years. And for the Cowboys, you have to be looking for answers in 2025 and beyond.
So, Matt, here locally, the Syracuse Mets, a AAA affiliate of the New York Mets, play the Rochester Red Wings. But every once in a while, they change their names to the Syracuse Salt Potatoes and the Rochester Garbage Plates. And they fight for this 8-foot tall golden fork. I'm going to give you this golden fork, Matt. Are you going to stick it right now on the Dallas Cowboys and just end their season before it even officially begins?
I don't need to. Jerry Jones already has. When you trade Micah Parsons, that's a give up move, in my opinion. People are comparing this to the Herschel Walker trade. It isn't that. You got Kenny Clark, who's a 30-plus-year-old nose tackle. Nice pickup when you're facing Saquon Barkley twice a year. And if you're going to make a run, you have to go through Jahmyr Gibbs. Nice pickup. But as I had a scouting director tell me, Kenny Clark is a nice player, but he's replaceable. Pass rush is a premium in the NFL, unquote. Micah Parsons is a premium player, top 3 at his position, at a top 3 most important position to roster construction. I'm not sure how the Cowboys come back from this. I don't see it. And if they lose to Philadelphia and you start stringing some losses together, guys are going to start looking around that locker room and, maybe CD's hamstring starts to hurt again. Or maybe Dak has an elbow. Or guys just decide, hey, what are we even doing here after a move like this?
Matt, you see, I'm all geared up today in my Giants garb.
I see that.
All right, come on. We've got the
I
Commanders.
debated throwing on the Penn State jersey, number 2 team in the country to represent. Next time I'll have to do that to represent my squad, to fit in with you guys here.
But do I have any reason to be garbed up? What do you see? Look into the crystal ball here. What do you see in week 1? And do you see a season of surprise perhaps for the Giants? Do you see something? Do you see a move in a positive direction? Was it right for this owner to stick with this coach and this GM at this point? Give me some insight on where you think the Giants will end up standing when this season falls.
A lot of questions there. I'll try to tackle them one by one. I'm not convinced that Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll, specifically Brian Daboll, should have been brought back. I do think Joe Schoen has really upgraded the talent at the top of the roster. Depth is still a major concern, major critical concern across the roster. But you now have Brian Burns and Abdul Carter. Top 5 to 10 edge rush duo in the NFL, maybe better than that. Javon Holland, he's a guy that's going to make a significant impact on the back end of that defense in the secondary. Paulson Adebo is competent at cornerback. Malik Neighbors may already be a top 5 talent on offense across the NFL, certainly at wide receiver. The talent is there. Carl Banks told me for a column a couple weeks ago, adding Abdul Carter and having Malik Neighbors modernizes, unquote, how the Giants are able to play football on both sides of the ball. I think the Giants are going to be better. I think they're going to be competitive. I don't think they're going to get blown out that often. I think they're going to be in a handful of 1-score, 10-point games either way. That said, the schedule is a murderer's row. The schedule is the second most difficult strength of schedule in the NFL. And the first 4 weeks, who do they play in week 5? At New Orleans. I'm calling it now. The over-under on Jackson Dart's first NFL start is in New Orleans, week 5, mark the tape. And I do think that if the Giants can hover around 6 to 9 wins, somewhere in that range, or if Jackson Dart shows promise over the second half of the season, that'll be enough for the most impatient owner in professional sports to bring back Joe Schoen, bring back Brian Daboll, and build around Jackson Dart. I think Jackson Dart has a lot of upside. I'm really impressed by what we saw in the preseason. I think the Giants will be more competitive. I just don't know that they're a double-digit team this year. But hey, if Dart shows some promise, add a couple pieces next year, all of a sudden it becomes a little interesting in East Rutherford.
See, Matt, I'm a patience guy, and I don't really want to see Dart start until later in the year just because I want him to be the real deal, and I don't care. I'll sacrifice now. I like what you said. If we're more competitive, I actually personally would be happy with this Giants team. It maybe not be all about the W's for me this year as showing competitive, trying to deepen that roster in future years here, and finding the quarterback.
But you got to know, though, right?
To wait for the guy? Like, what? Yeah, am I wrong to want to wait? I would wait. I would love for them to attack this like the Chiefs attacked Mahomes. Literally, the guy doesn't play till the end of the season. That's what I've been thinking. Am I wrong to be thinking?
So what happens if you're picking 3rd and Kate Klubnik is available from Clemson and Arch Manning is available from Texas and Drew Aller is available from Penn State?
So we got to find out now is what you're
you have 3 quarterbacks and you drafted Jackson Dart. at 25? You need to know. I mean, you just need to know, because if Jackson Dart isn't the guy, then you need to go and draft a quarterback with that top 3, top 4 pick next year, right? And if you're Brian Dable, your meal ticket to remaining the Giants head coach is Jackson Dart being competent, right? Russell Wilson isn't the long-term answer. You're not going to get the chance to coach Drew Aller or Arch Manning or Kate Klubnik. You need Jackson Dart to be the guy. If you're John Mara, you need to know if you drafted the right quarterback. And I think the days of guys holding a clipboard for a year, Patrick Mahomes is kind of the outlier there. I mean, just look at last season. Jaden Daniels, gangbusters rookie year. I think his ceiling is even higher than what he showed as a rookie. You look at Drake May, showed enough promise in New England where they can say, okay, let's go out and let's get Stephon Diggs. Let's go and let's draft a wide receiver early. Let's get the best offensive tackle in Campbell. Let's go get a running back in Trevion Henderson. We know how we can win around Drake May because he's shown some flashes. The days of waiting for your rookie quarterback, I think, are over, especially when you're the Giants, where your roster could be anywhere from a 7-win competitive team with some upside in the future to a 4-win disaster because of the schedule and Russell Wilson being no better or no worse than he was in Pittsburgh. You need to find out about Jackson Dart. Quicker the better.
All right. I guess I'm just a dinosaur. I want to wait. I don't know why, but I do. Go ahead, Boy Green.
Yeah, this is my last one. And sometimes, Matt, you got to feed the animals. And I see we have a commenter asking for expectations for his team. Jamie O'Hara, Jamie the FedEx guy, asking about his Chicago Bears. And
Interesting team.
Yeah, and what a sneaky game week one that more people should be talking about, the Monday Night Football game. It's Caleb Williams, Ben Johnson, and all that intrigue, and J.J. McCarthy. We never got to see him last year outside of the preseason, so a fun first game. What are your expectations for his Chicago Bears?
Yeah, I'm all in on Chicago. I mean, I was high on them a year ago. That's even more the case going into this season when you bring in Ben Johnson to pair with Caleb Williams. I think that's going to unlock Williams' talent and upside. I love the duo of Roma Dunze and Luther Burden. I love what they've done along the offensive line with bringing in Joe Thuney and Jonah Jackson and Drew Dalman, the top center available. I think they fixed a lot of their needs and plugged their biggest holes in the course of one off season. I put out my predictions column on Monday morning. You can go check it out at Between the Hash Marks, MattLombardoNFL.substack.com. I have the Bears as the 7th wild card in the NFC. I think that they have more upside than even the Vikings do with an elite defense, but an unknown in J.J. McCarthy. I think the schedule sets up pretty favorably for them. And I just think with the pieces they've added around a young quarterback with a quarterback whisperer head coach, it's go time in Chicago. And I think that they're a year away from us looking at Chicago and saying, holy smokes, they're on the same level as the Lions and the Packers. Where did that come from? Well, it came from Caleb Williams starting to reach his ceiling and the weapons that they've built around him, both through the draft and fortifying the offensive line with competent veterans this offseason.
All right, Matt, before we get you out of here, I want to thank you again for joining us here on the show. I'll see you again on Sunday and every Sunday on Boy Green Daily, baby, which we appreciate. And, Matt, again, we have a direct link to everybody who's watching live or after the fact to his Substack down below. You can click in, go check it out yourself right now. But, Matt, give us another plug, baby. What is it all about? And, again, supporting local journalism, so important and no more important than it ever has been here in 2025.
Paul, Jim, appreciate this as always. Thanks for the opportunity to join you here and talk NFL. Between the Hash Marks, it's independent NFL journalism. You get the Monday column full of insight from sources around the NFL. The podcast every Wednesday. We'll bring on current and former players as guests every single week. The mailbag on Friday, where you ask your questions to me. I give you my opinions and the insight from NFL executives, coaches, scouts, former players, you name it. They're going to chime in to give you their answer on what they believe is happening inside the league. And then, of course, features like the profile on Joey Blunt, Arizona Cardinals safety and special teams ace. He was just named the special teams captain for the Cardinals. I spoke to him before training camp on why he believes he is the catalyst of emotion, unquote. So features like that sprinkled in throughout the year. Before the NFC Championship game last season, I spoke to Saquon Barkley's high school head coach. I spoke to Joe Moorhead, who was the offensive coordinator at Penn State when he was in Happy Valley, and some NFL players about when they thought Saquon Barkley was truly special. That's rerunning tomorrow to preview the Thursday night opener between the Cowboys and the Eagles Eagles. So lots of in-depth reporting, long-form storytelling. Really appreciate you giving me the chance to talk it up and to plug it here on the show. And love to join you moving forward, guys.
All right. Thank you, Matt. Great to have you, my friend. Appreciate it. Joining us on the Wednesday show. There he is, Matt Lombardo. Gotta love it, talking all things NFL. And we will continue to check in with Matt throughout the season as well. He does a phenomenal job. Paul, before we cut bait here on the Wednesday Live, let's set things up for this week. We've got some really good content coming down this week, so let's set it up for people. Remind people also, if you keep clicking on subscribe, we'll find some friends, some relatives, some family members. We're closing in on getting to the magic number to give away that David Tyree autograph, The Catch, framed photo sitting right here on my wall. It's getting closer and closer to being off my wall, so let's get it off my wall sooner rather than later. Click that subscribe button below if you haven't already. Let's set people up for the week.
Yes, later today, you guys will hear from Jake Asman, ESPN radio host extraordinaire. He'll talk about the unfortunate Elijah Vera Tucker injury news, one of the sexiest games of the week in Jets Steelers, and his brand new show on ESPN New York, where he and Mike Tannenbaum will be co-hosting every NFL Sunday to talk about all the games and insights on the season. So looking forward to that conversation with Jake. That will be dropping today on the show. Tomorrow, Anthony Prohaska, our Buffalo Bills guru, talking all things Bills Mafia. More on that Bills-Ravens game coming up on Sunday Night Football. Lerch, you're going to be talking to Mike Crispino, our guy from UConn. We continue the Syracuse
my
college
old Knicks
compadre.
I might sneak in a little talk,
right.
Knicks talk with Crispino.
Yeah, there you go.
Nowadays, he is the voice of the UConn Huskies.
Yeah, very, very nice. So we'll get some of that action in. Friday, of course, our weekly check-ins with Joe Bartle, talking all things fantasy football. We had our live draft last week, so any ripple effects, of course, from the fantasy draft results could sneak its way onto that show. And you guys out in the audience can ask your fantasy football questions. Use Joe. He is a great resource from rotowire.com, so that's going to be a lot of fun with Joe. And the debut of our NFL Picks Against the Spread video version. That's going to be
Cue up the autumn wind, Boy Green. Cue up the autumn wind.
As we will. And you guys out in the audience will be able to participate with your Picks Against the Spread on our Instagram feed. That's at MC Show Digital. You see that flashing down below my handsome mug every once in a while here on the screen. So make sure you guys, if you're not already, follow us on Instagram. That is where you'll be able to make your picks again at MC Show Digital. It gets me emotional talking about it.
Sure does.
That if you don't have an Instagram account, it's very easy to make one very quickly. And every week we'll plug it and show you how to do it. Put links in our YouTube description of how you can get involved. There it is right there on your screen at MC Show Digital. So yes, you'll be able to make all your picks against the spread. That'll be on Friday as well. So much content, Lerch, so much. And then, of course, all the reactions to all the games that happen as well. So all that and more coming up.
All right. And if you were partying too hard on the Labor Day weekend, we already have dropped Giants insider Ed Valentine. So you can catch up on that. Just going to our YouTube channel at MC Show Digital, where everything is archived. We already talked with Ed and set up a preview of the Giants and Washington Commanders, and then talked a little bit about some of the peripheral stories going on with the Giants as well, including the status of Andrew Thomas, the Giants left tackle. So, yeah, lots of stuff this week. We are really in full football mode. And, of course, we'll have the picks, as Boy Green mentioned. We'll drop that on Friday. We have a special guest host joining us this weekend. This Friday. He's a former intern of ours. He's very quirky. He's very interesting. And he's going to be part of our NFL pick segment this season. He'll be giving us his picks, and we'll be letting you know who he picks. He did have a good season a couple of seasons ago.
He did.
And he's back. He is intern Ed, as he's formerly known. Ed will be doing his picks. So see if he can do it again, Boy Green. He took us down a couple of seasons ago.
He did.
And was very angry that we didn't bring him back, despite the fact that he was no longer part of our family. He'd gone into the real work world. So I told him, all right, okay, since you beat us, I'll bring you back for another season. If you beat us again, you get to stick around until next year again. You stay with us. But as soon as we knock you out, you're gonzo.
Okay, there you go. So
my sole goal is to not get out. That's
okay,
it.
there you go. I will tell you, I joined his podcast this week because he's now blossomed into our universe, and why wouldn't he? And I joined his podcast. He brought the fact up that, like, hey, I haven't been involved the last couple of years, and now I'm back. He had totally forgotten the stakes, though, so that's funny. He thought he was just back forever now, and I was like, remember, you got to win the whole
thing. Stakes are high, man.
Yeah, so stakes are very high. So I reiterated that to internet.
Yeah, he's not back in perpetuity. He thinks he is. You know?
Yeah, right. But
Yeah,
I guess we'll
part
see.
of the arrogance of Ed. We need to bring him down a peg.
Yeah,
bring him down a peg. Maybe
I
5
think.
pegs.
Yeah, I think the pink dye got to his head, which is only natural. That's a lot of chemicals that went on his head a couple of years ago for that Jets Bills bet. So
we will share that on the.
Oh boy, that'll be
remind
great.
people of that, especially for those that weren't around for Ed's pink hair.
Yeah.
incident.
I will also say this. You guys may have tuned in and said, whoa, where's Dalton Wasserman? So every once in a while, Dalton Wasserman will have a lot of NFL things going on, and thus we'll bring on a Lombardo or someone different. But for the most part, Dalton Wasserman, our main squeeze for all things Pro Football Focus, will be with us on a week-to-week basis, talking all things with the season here in our normal Wednesday slot. But like I said, every once in a while, there will be a pivot, and no problem. We love diving into our other Rolodex of context, Lerch, to bring them on the show. So just a heads up that we'll have Dalton back in next week, and I'm sure many weeks to come.
All right. And I liked him with the Met hat. Let's see if he brings that back next week. Team's looking a little better recently. So hopefully we keep that rolling. All right, folks. Well, thanks for tuning in on a Wednesday live. Again, Jake Asman coming later today. We got the picks and another live broadcast on Friday at 10:30 as we bring back Joe Bartle to do all things fantasy, opening weekend of fantasy football. So looking forward to all that. Until we see you then, take care, everybody.